Okay, so today we're going to be talking about formulas, tables, and graphs, and how all three can work together to help us solve problems, and how sometimes we can get information from one to help us find information from the other. So if we look at this, I'm looking at an example from page 100 in your math journal. It tells you to write a formula to represent each rule, so that's kind of step one, write a formula. Step two is to complete the table, so that would be step two. And then graph the data would be step three. So kind of 3 steps to this process. So looking at this first problem, it says Emma earned $6 per hour. So really it's a pretty basic problem for us to kind of get some practice with. It tells us our rule is earnings equals $6 an hour times number of hours worked. So if I want to make a formula from that, it gives me my letters over here that I can use in the table. So capital E for earnings and lowercase h for hours. So the formula for this would be earnings equals $6 times lowercase h for hours. So once I have that formula, I can now kind of start using it to fill in the table. Over here in the table, I've got the time in hours, and then I have mostly missing earnings. I do have one earning in there that we'll deal with in just a second. So I'm now going to plug in my values for my variable h to kind of solve. So for the first one I have 1 hour, so that would be $6 times 1 hour, which would give me $6. I would then have 2 hours times $6, which would give me $12 total for her earnings. I then have 3, and I get 18. And then I'm going to skip this one because this one's a little bit different. I'm going to skip this row and drop down to 7 hours, because if I plug 7 in for my hours, I'd have my earnings equal $6 times 7, so that would be $42. So I've kind of completed that part of the table. Now for this one here, it gets a little bit trickier when I look at this 27. For that one, what I'm actually going to have to do is I'm going to have to go in and plug it into the equation in a different spot, because now I have my earnings. So I'd have 27 for my earnings equals 6 times h. So I'm asking myself, what number times 6 gives me 27? Well, to figure that out, I can kind of work backwards and maybe divide. So 27 divided by 6. 27 divided by 6, well, 6 goes into 27 4 times with a remainder of 3. That'd have 24 with a remainder of 3 left over. And so that'd be 3/6, which gives me 4 1/2. So at 4 1/2 hours, I would earn, or Emma would earn $27. So we have completed the formula. We've completed the table. Now we're going to use that table to complete the graph. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit to give us a little bit better perspective on what we want to do. So we have this graph and we have our table. So what we're going to do is we see that on our graph we have earnings over here, and then time is down here at the bottom. So if I have 1 hour, my earnings is $6. So now I need to plot that. So at 1 hour, so right here, I need to go up 6. Well, it looks like I'm going up by 2. I'm going to check that. 2, 4, 6, 8. So, yep, so $6 would be right here. I'm going to put a point on my graph. And then I'm going to do 2. And 2 is at $12. 2 hours is at $12. 3 hours is at 18. So be right there. And then let's go ahead and go up to 7. 7 is at 42. So what I notice now is it looks like they're forming a straight line. I can go ahead and do that 4 1/2 if I want, but since it's kind of in a weird spot, I'm going to save that for just a minute. So since I am on the iPad, it is a little tricky to draw a straight line, but I'm going to do my best to draw a straight line to connect these points. So that's not too bad. And what I want you to see is that if I didn't know where this 27 would end up over here, if kind of working backwards was too tough, one thing that I could do is then use the graph, use my points that I have to make the graph and then see where 27 would fall, because if I look at 27 earnings, it would be right about in there, so right about oh, probably about here on my line. And you see that that ends up falling at 4.5, which is what we found for the time. So you can kind of use the graph as well to help you solve some of the problems in the table. So it kind of works both ways. One other last thing I want you to notice is that this forms a straight line. When you have a straight line on a graph like this that follows a straight line, what that represents is a constant rate. And with constant rates, what you will notice is that when you go to graph them, you will see that they form a straight line. So what we have here is a constant rate, meaning that the rate of her pay doesn't change. She's getting paid $6 per hour no matter what. And so our graph is going to form a straight line because we are constantly going up at the same amount. So every time we go up an hour, we're going up $6. And so that will form a straight line. So that is called a constant rate. And most of the things you do today will be constant rates, so hopefully you do see straight lines in your work. So good luck in your work today working with formulas, tables, and graphs.